Good day, everyone. I'm Somalit Hogan with the Massachusetts Small Business Development Center. Today, we're here for a webinar on industry-specific guidance for reopening your restaurant. We're going to hear from our presenter, Anita Eliasson from the Small Business Development Center. And then we have two special guests, Joanne Locke from Main Street Deli and John Grossman from Holyoke Hummus. There are two business owners here in the Pioneer Valley, and they will be sharing their stories and how they're dealing with COVID-19. I also want to thank all of our partners in creating these webinars. Those include SCORE, the Center for Women Enterprise, Valley Community Development, Mass Growth Capital Corporation, Common Capital, Franklin County CDC, as well as the Massachusetts Small Business Development Center, not just the Western Mass office, but also the office of Salem State at Clark University. And as well, our stakeholders, the Small Business Administration, the State of Massachusetts Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development, UMass Eisenberg School of Management, and America's SBDC. So thank you all for helping make these webinars possible. And without further ado, I'm gonna have Anita Eliasson take it away.
Thank you so much. Well, this is an interesting time to be reopening a restaurant in Massachusetts. And what we really have to be concerned about is the fact that you need to be spending equal attention to keeping the customers safe and feeling secure in your environment, and also the employees. And what we've learned from people who have been doing takeout businesses and also from the National Restaurant Association is people who are doing good work to keep both their employees and the public safe are successful to the degree that they let people know that they've done that. So the state of Massachusetts has provided some great posters that should be posted in your restaurants, and also some guidelines. So we recommend that we always go back to the source, which is mass.gov, which is where a lot of this information came from, and also the Center for Disease Control. And we really aren't going outside of those areas for guidance on how to reopen. So just that's where this information came from. This is a CDC form that is on their website, and it really gives you an idea as to when it's safe to reopen. So when you have met all the health and safety actions that they require, then they say yes. When you've met the safeguards, then it's safe to open. And we're going to be going to those in more detail. Actually, the state of Massachusetts really goes beyond some of the CDC guidelines. So meeting the state of Massachusetts will ensure that you're meeting the CDC guidelines as well. When we are having a restaurant, we have to keep our employees safe, as we said, and this needs to be put up anywhere where employees will be. And it's a little blurry, but it is on the mass.gov website, but it just gives you an idea that there are 4 areas that you have to constantly be focusing on: social distancing, hygiene, which is it relates to the ability of employees and guests to keep their hands and face clean and covered, the staffing and operations, and cleaning and disinfecting. Those are the 4 areas that always have to be done. So this is mandatory safety standards for workplaces, and it is a regulation that this be posted in areas where your employees will be. Break rooms potentially, where people enter the building, just so they know. In order to reopen a business, it does require that you have a plan of action that you do not have to report, but you have to have on file should a health official ask to see it. And so this poster that would be done at the very end of all the work, and we'll go through that work, would be displayed for the customers coming in. So you have one poster that's going to be used so your employees know what you're doing to keep them safe. And this is the poster that customers are going to be on the lookout for to be sure that you're following the regulations of the state of Massachusetts for reopening. And again, It's all about social distancing, hygiene, operations, and then cleaning and disinfecting. This control plan is what can be used. They tried to make it a little bit easier than having everyone write their own control plan. So we can just read through this and just give you an idea of ways you could meet some of the requirements for the state. So you would fill out all your business information, and again, this would be kept in your operations manual should a health official ask to see it. And so for social distancing, they're going to want to see the way in which you are going to keep people 6 feet apart. This applies to both employees and customers coming in. Some of the recommendations, and that's the reason why we're so happy to have Joanne and John online after, is we really want to see how the rubber meets the road and this really becomes the reality of how to open the restaurant. But a lot of people are thinking of things like signage, taping, they're doing roping strategies, just so people would know. Hygiene protocol is there has to be hand sanitizer and face masks for all employees. And if you are going to regulate that customers coming into your restaurant wear a face mask, it is highly recommended that you have provided for them face masks, because we don't want the awkward situation of someone showing up at the door and they don't have a face mask and you have to turn them away. The issue with the face mask for the customers is because you also have to be thinking about the employees. So it's all very well for your team to be doing the right things right, but you have to have a plan in place for what if the public is coming in and they're not following the guidelines that you think are appropriate and that are mandated by the state. There are some restaurants that are putting out signs that say no masks, no service. And there are others that are saying, if you need a face mask, we will provide you one. So it really depends. But again, for planning to reopen, you have to be sure that you have those products in place. The staffing and operations, they are talking about keeping, again, a 6-foot distance, which in many cases is not really all that possible. So they're talking about staggering staff, not having people gather in, for example, a break room to have their dinner, to perhaps have them leave the building. And then the last one is cleaning and disinfecting. So if you were to utilize any or all of these, you would then comply with being able to put that poster in the front that you have met and are using the regulations for the state of Massachusetts for your reopening. So here we go. It gets to be a little tricky, and we know that people are going to have to reduce the capacity of their inside seating and the outside seating as well. So there has to be a 6-foot distance between it. There cannot be more than 6 people at one table. And to the degree it's not just the table, it's also taking into account the seats as well. There need to be 6 feet between the backs of people then that are closest to the tables in the restaurant. There can't be any standing service or eating at a counter. It all has to be seated. And you can, again, continue with carry-out or delivery service. That's totally a possibility if these regulations would just reduce your seating capacity to something that's not realistic. So, and these can be, we don't need to use your time during this seminar to do this, but again, these are the rules, and these are all great suggestions that the state has provided to provide some guidance doing this. The one question that keeps coming up is what's going to happen if guests decide to use a restroom, because that would mean walking through a dining room to do that. And there's not really any specific guidance about it, but there are restaurants that are roping off spaces that would actually show a one way to get to the restrooms and another way to return to people's seats. So we'll see that as well. Again, customers can use their face mask, can remove them while they're at their tables, but they do have to enter and exit their table area with a mask on. These are hygiene protocols, and there are strong recommendations that employees wash their hands very frequently and are provided some sort of a reminder. Some people are using timers, some people are playing certain songs in their playlist, and when everyone hears that song, they stop everything and wash their hands to be sure that they're complying. But again, we'll ask the experts, Joanne and John, what they're doing. Again, for staffing and operations, we're talking about staggering staff, having as few people as possible, and also cordoning off areas for perhaps prep versus those folks going into the kitchen, and have a designated runner between the prep area and the actual cooking area. And here we go. And anyone showing signs, of course, of illness are not to attend work. And there are mandatory standards for the workplace. And when you get these slides, if you just go on to mass.gov and look at the mandatory standards, there are forms to fill out. Should somebody go home sick, you would know that as well. And then cleaning and disinfecting. And these are CDC guidelines, so this really talks about that it has to be disinfected between seatings, and people are, in many cases, are disposing of regular salt and pepper shakers and ketchup and things like that in favor of single-use packets so that cleaning doesn't have to be done. And this is actually the CDC. So this basically represents a combination of the Massachusetts regulations, and it's overlaid with the CDC. And again, it really talks about if you have indoor seating and the area has not been used in the last 7 days, then you're free to go to the next step, and then what to do. And at the bottom, it talks about what you can use depending on whether you're dealing with porous or non-porous surfaces, glass, metal, plastic. And plexiglass is being used by a great number of restaurants to both separate table seating and also to separate the counter from the client coming up, the customer who would then be paying. And most people have eliminated taking cash at this point for obvious reasons. This is really what the CDC recommends, that there be a plan. But again, if you follow the regulations that we just went over in the previous slides for the state of Massachusetts, you will meet the plan, and that of course it's implemented, and that you kind of pivot as you go. But the most important thing that the Restaurant Association advises is whatever you do, to be sure that you tell everybody loud and clear. Even if someone has a great experience in your restaurant, you don't want them to say, oh, well, it went well this time, but you want them to know that what they experienced is what was done on purpose, that it was intentional, that people had on face masks and gloves, and there was a line with clearly marked places to stand for takeout food. It needs to be intentional so that when we set the expectations, then they know should they return or tell their friends, they know exactly what to expect. So after you take the time to develop this amazing plan and implement it, the idea is to deliver it day after day with consistency, and also to post everywhere what people's expectations should be, and to ask them to report to you, the owner, if in fact that your standard of safety that you're setting in place has not been met by the employees. So that's it in a nutshell. Again, mass.gov and the Center for Disease Control.org is where this information came from, and those posters are available. So I'm going to stop my screen share and get back to, there you go. Okay. Are you there, Sam?
I am right here, Anita. Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. I want to remind everyone that you can ask a question about anything Anita just said by using either the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, or also you can raise your hand. You can raise your hand by clicking on the participants button and the bottom of Zoom. If you just hover underneath, and you can raise your hand and I will unmute you so you can ask Anita a question. And for those who are watching on Facebook right now, you can type your question on the chat and I can see it and I will ask it here live in the Zoom webinar. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and ask, we have a few other guests today who are joining us. Nancy Girardi from the Salem State Small Business Development Center is on the line. And I want to go ahead and ask Nancy if there's anything else she'd like to add to what Anita said today, or if there are any questions, anything that she's seen that are questions that some of her clients has in regards to reopening businesses. And we also have Len Gendro from SCORE, and we have Richard Shaney from the Clark University as well. It's Memphis CDC here as well. So you guys should be able to unmute yourselves and add to the conversation, and we'll get started with the Small Business Owners panel after this. So Nancy, is there anything you'd like to add to what Anita shared?
No, I think she did an excellent job. I was looking at the Commonwealth of Mass. They do have the checklist. I found it at mass.gov restaurant protocol summary, and it had the detail, but it was very similar to the information that Anita offered, spot on. I know that people in the restaurant business will have probably more specific questions, but I think they really did a good job, and Anita did a good job explaining
Yeah, I think that
everything out.
Okay, great. I just started pressing all their buttons here. Thank you so much, Nancy, for sharing that. Richard, is there anything you'd like to add to this as well?
No, I thought it was actually done very well. And this is actually really good timing because we obviously have so many clients in the hospitality industry. This is the timing couldn't be better. So I thought it was a very good presentation. Very good.
Absolutely. And I'd like to ask again, for anyone who's listening here in the webinar, we have, about 25 people or so. If you have any questions, to go ahead and either raise your hand or ask your question in the chat or the Q&A button. And Anita, I do have a question for you from your presentation. So as you shared some of these guidelines, could you review once again what's required and what is not required? This is the question that we get a lot. Right. Which of these guidelines that you've just provided us, I mean, I know there's a lot of them, but is there any one of these guidelines that's absolutely required by everyone?
Yes. What's required by everyone are the two forms. The one form that you have to post, the mandatory safety standards for workplaces, that has to be posted for your employees. And then you have to sign off on the fact that you have read and understand. And it's the welcome poster that people should see when they walk into the restaurant. And it just says that the workers are keeping social distance, that they're dealing with hygiene protocols, that they're dealing with operational efficiencies, and that they're cleaning and sanitizing. And the owner needs to sign that, and that needs to be when people enter the restaurant. In New York City, it's so interesting because the health departments actually rate the restaurants. It's A through C. And you can see right when you're walking in, it says the health department has been here and this restaurant is a C+. And of course, it's not a restaurant you really want to go to. And I think this welcome form is something that people are going to get used to seeing, that it's the sign off by the owners saying, we are aware of the regulations and we are meeting them. That's for the public. And then your employees need to know that you are aware of it as well, and what you're doing for them to keep them safe as well.
Great, thank you for that, Anita. I appreciate it. And then we do have a question in the chat right here, that there are plexiglass barriers that are being made to secure to the sides of tables. This is tables in the restaurant. Are they okay so that tables can be closer than 6 feet to provide more seating? Would that be a possible solution?
It's 6 feet. And it's not, again, it's not 6 feet from the table. It's 6 feet from 12 inches from the table is what most people are saying, because by the time someone's seated, they're not on top of the table. So if you take the kind of the size of the table and you add 12 inches in each direction, it is 6 feet from that would be the back of the chairs of the next table. So it's going to significantly reduce the seating arrangements, which is why some people are deciding to just continue to do takeout and delivery and just try to be more robust with those services until it opens up more.
I think it might help this person who asked the question, if they look on the mandatory safety standards, the first bullet, it says the tables must be positioned so to maintain at least 6 foot difference from other tables and any high foot traffic areas. And then it says tables may be positioned closer, separated by a protective non-porous barrier like plexiglass, not less than 6 feet high. So plexiglass that is 6 feet high in between tables and high traffic areas that's going to look really weird, but that might be what this person needs. But it's bullet number 1 under the mandatory safety standards that might answer their question.
Great, thank you so much, Nancy. That was Nancy Girardi from the MSPDC office in Salem State. And Anita, the follow-up question here, where did you get the posters you were making reference to?
Mass.gov. They're on mass.gov, and you just put in the search bar restaurants, and it has the mandatory guidelines, and it's under downloads, which at the very end.
Great. And so if you have to have such a separation between the tables, and to this person's question, that's going to limit seating quite a bit for many restaurants. And if you have a very small sitting area, it may be that you can't even, you have to continue to do takeout.
Right.
You know, yeah. Well, right. And so, and then are there any guidance as to where people can get that PPE, the personal protection equipment,
No.
right now?
There's not. No, there's not. And someone was saying that the Restaurant Depot was handling face masks, and obviously gloves, but face masks as well. Does anyone on the call know? Has anyone on the call gotten face masks from any of their restaurant distributors or food distributors? Would be a good question.
Yeah, so if we did have a quick call a few weeks ago with a barbershop, and he was saying how some of his suppliers were letting him know about, you know, where he can get additional supplies for his place. So we're wondering if that's the same for restaurants, if restaurants are hearing from their suppliers or other folks that are providing services to them. Could be your point of sale system, could be your marketing person, whoever it is. We want to hear if you're getting some guidance from them, where you're getting your information, and if you have heard of where you can get PPE, personal protection equipment, locally here in Western Mass, or if you just have to go, you know, to the more national or other states. I know there's been an effort in the state to support manufacturers that are making personal protection equipment, and through the Mass Tech Collaborative and other state organizations, state agencies. But so far, we're not able to confirm yet where is the best place to go to get that equipment. And Anita, did you talk? Could you just remind us again, what is it that's needed in terms of disinfection? What's absolutely required for disinfection?
Oh, that's on the last slide for the CDC, and it depends.
I know there was like 1,000 things on that slide. So
yeah,
if you can just quickly highlight that part, because that's a good question for people, very important. That one of them is the distance, the other time is disinfection as well.
Yeah.
Like what's required.
Well, while you're talking, I'm gonna look that up, because it's not specific. It just talks about disinfecting, and that you have to look at the label to be sure that it's disinfecting the type of surface that you're using. So it's a little bit. It's not completely clear, but I'll look it up while we're talking. How's that?
And I had on there, of course, they have to clean the commonly touched surfaces. And examples of toilet seats and doorknobs and so forth. And they need to keep cleaning logs I've seen these in bathrooms at malls.
Mhm.
You need to keep cleaning logs with the date and the time and the scope of cleaning. They
Right.
do disinfect heavily touched areas, like I said, the elevator buttons and staircases, but those are bigger restaurants. Increase the cleaning in the event of an actual COVID case. They would be able to tell the different employees and patrons of the restaurant. So just good common sense.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And Sam, just to be specific, and on the
Absolutely.
CDC, it says cleaning with soap and water removes germs, dirt, and impurities. However, and it lowers the risk of infection. Disinfecting is actually going to kill the germs on the surfaces, but it's not specific about what you would use in terms of alcohol and things of that line. So the CDC website, I'll just look it up now. It has, based on what the surface is, what you should use. So I'll check it out.
You're going to be sharing your screen, Anita?
No, I'm just going to look it up first. Let me just find it.
So
Okay.
want at least a 60% alcohol content.
What did you say, Nancy?
60% alcohol content is the minimum for cleaning and disinfecting.
Oh, great. That's great.
Okay, so we have a few comments here in the chat. Joseph says, you mentioned that counter sitting eating is not allowed.
Standing.
What about standing tables when someone can stand while eating? Even if it's not allowed indoors, what about outdoor dining and sitting?
It says all customers must be seated. Eat-in service to standing customers, i.e. around a bar area, is prohibited. That's what it says.
Okay, so we might need to seek a little bit more. It sounds like it's pretty straightforward, but at the same time, there might be some room for interpretation.
Right, because a bar is clearly a more public area. If it were, a party of 3, for example, sit, around a high top or something, that may be different. But I guess the idea is once people are seated, everyone is kind of stationary rather than standing and kind of moving around. I think that's the point of it, perhaps. It says restaurants may not seat any customer at a bar, but subject to applicable building and fire code, bar areas may be reconfigured to accommodate table seating that complies with the spacing and other requirements of the standard. So I guess they could use a few seats, and then there would need to be 6 feet and then a few seats. It's to ensure 6 feet between.
What about outdoor seating specifically?
It's the same thing. And Joanne can speak to that because they are going to begin outdoor seating fairly soon. She just went through that whole conversation.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Anita.
Yeah. Welcome.
Great. Thank you so much, Anita, for your presentation. I want to remind again, everyone, today we're going over industry-specific guidance for reopening your business, specifically for restaurants today. We have 2 guest speakers on the line, Joanne Locke from Main Street Deli and John Grossman from Holyoke Hummus. And I want to remind everybody, tomorrow we're going to be talking about the same topic, but for hair salons. That'll be at 1:30. And on June 8th, that's next Monday, would be 1 p.m. We're going to talk about the hospitality industry, your bed and breakfast, your hotels. So thanks everyone once again for being here. Let me, at this time, I'm going to ask John and Joanne to go ahead and start your cameras and join us. Hey, John, how are you?
We're okay.
Yeah.
I'm not looking great, but
I don't know. I'm not.
I didn't get a chance to get into makeup.
Okay, no problem.
It says the same
That's all
thing
right.
for mine. It says the same
You're
thing
busy
for mine.
running
You
a
cannot
business.
start the video because the host says stopped it.
Okay, hold on. You should be able to do it in just a second, Joanne. Try again. Try again. There you are. I can see you now. Hi, Joanne.
You can?
Good to see you.
Okay.
All right, you might need to adjust your camera a little bit. There you go. Just move back a little bit. All right, so for everybody again, welcome John Grossman from Holyoke Hummus and Joanne Locke from Main Street Deli. Holyoke Hummus is obviously located in Holyoke. There are a restaurant, but they started as a food truck. Is that correct, John?
Yes, we actually started as a tent and tables, and then we had a food truck a year later, and then we got the restaurant almost 3 years in.
Great. And Joanne, your business is Main Street Deli, and you're located on Main Street in Agawam. It's a family-owned business as it is John's, and you have indoor and outdoor seating as well.
Yes. We started 11 years ago as Main Street Deli. We've actually rebranded about a year ago to 141 Main Street, but people still call us Main Street Deli. So anyway, so we redid an old carriage house into our restaurant now. So that's another whole story.
Nice.
Do you want me to keep going?
Okay, very good. No. So I'm going to ask you both a few questions. If you could share with us in general, how have you prepared to reopen your business, and specifically, what are you requiring or requesting your customers to do, and how are you communicating these changes to them? So, John, if you want to go first.
Sure. Well, since the lockdown began, we've been doing a curbside takeout, which is like a lot of restaurants. We've got a table set up outside. We're only taking phone orders. We're not handling any cash. And we started online ordering as well to just make that process easier for people. And you call your order in or you order online. We get the order. You come within a half hour and call us when you're here, and then we bring the food out and we put it on the service table outside. We have signs with instructions both on our door and on an easel board out there. And it's sort of a guarantee that once you make a sign, nobody will read it. So there's, while we may have been thought we were communicating until it kind of became common culture for how people were picking food up, especially our third-party delivery services. The drivers were not compliant for a while. And, finally sort of somebody else was helping educate them, probably all the other restaurants in Grubhub. So we started curbside, obviously closed seating, closed our lobby, closed takeout from inside the restaurant as well. And we started doing our own evening delivery service, which is more of a business strategy than necessarily a health and safety strategy. It's just that people aren't down here in Holyoke the way they are usually, and we've got a lot of families at home, and it was just sort of a good opportunity for us in a way that we could sell more food, because we're selling just a fraction of what we usually sell by doing the curbside. In preparing to sort of...
Tell us a little bit about that. It was like a whole meal with dessert as well?
Well, it was a little bit of kind of just changing the words on stuff that we had before. So, for instance, we have a falafel plate that comes with kind of a full spread of the things you might expect here: falafel, hummus, Israeli salad, etc. We call that falafel plate. When we're doing catering, we call it a falafel buffet, and we just add up the multiples of how many people we want. So if you're getting 2.5 ounces of chips, we multiply that times however many people are in the falafel buffet. And then for this, we realized that people really like the sort of, I don't want to figure a menu out, just send me dinner, like might be at my house. So we called it family style. And again, same selection of food: falafel, hummus, Israeli salad, chips, grape leaves. And when we call it family style, people have sort of loved ordering it that way. And obviously it's simple for them, but it's also comparing it to, let's say, the onesies, twosies that we might have for lunch, either from our curbside takeout or even before, when people were coming in for lunch, from their offices. It goes in chunks of 4, 5, 7. So doing that family style really just helped us appeal to that market: families at home who don't want to cook tonight. And that,
Great.
Great. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much, John. And so that's just, just a great sort of marketing strategy that you use to keep your sales at least flowing during this time, right?
Yeah.
And so, Joanne, I want to ask you the same question I asked John earlier. How have you prepared to reopen your restaurant, and what are you requesting your customers to do during, as you reopen? How have you communicated this to them?
Okay. Well, first of all, we have been open this entire time. So, we've kept all of our staff. We have about 16 employees, and all of them have still, we did decrease some of their hours, but generally we've kept all of our staff throughout this. When all this happened, I started reading about what was being asked of us way back when, and started putting together some, a book really of all different types of things that were required. But the very first thing that we did was we sat down. After I did that, we sat down with all of our employees and we started talking about keeping ourselves safe. That was my first goal, and it is still my goal every day when we open. My husband is 70, I'm close to that. So, and we have a lot of employees that we need to be mindful of. So as a group, and I usually always do things as a group, oh boy, sorry. We sat down and we made a list of everything that we touch within the restaurant. And since then I typed that up and put into a more formal, we ended up putting into a more formal regiment where we sanitize. There's 2 like routes, so to speak, that we sanitize twice a day with, first cleaning and then sanitizing. And we go through the entire restaurant twice a day thoroughly. That I think, so far we have not had any employee or anything else have any contact or have the infection. We've had a couple of co-scares of an employee having contact with someone that he was living with that did. So that's, I think, the first thing is, looking at what you're doing for sanitizing within your space. The other thing that we've done, I think, that is, and this came from my husband really, when this all started, he says, I don't want to do things much differently. And that has been a plus for us. We already had pickup and delivery, but we lost all of our offices when all this started, but we picked up in other ways. And for example, we kept all of our same hours. We had just maybe a 1 hour difference in the evening. Otherwise, we kept all of the days that we were open and the time, because the reason being is you want to think of the people that normally come to your restaurant are used to a certain pattern, used to a certain time frame, used to certain foods. And we also kept our entire menu available, which means we had to keep our staff. What happened, we found, was that everything was now through the phone, and it takes twice as long because you are asking for credit cards as opposed for all orders. So your staff, even though perhaps the sales aren't the same, we found that your staff is as much needed for those same amount of sales almost, because of the time it's taking you to get all orders over the phone.
And I'm gonna stop you right there for a second because you just brought up, it's a good segue to my next question, which is how do you sales compare now to where they were before the pandemic? And this question is for both of you. Joanne, if you want to answer that first, because you were talking, and then John.
Yeah, when the first week or two, our sales went down, we were at maybe 30% then. And our sales gradually through, and again, it's a constant evolving of things, are up to probably 70%, and they have been there. We are actually looking at, and we are hoping, because we picked up new people coming in the course of this whole thing, that we're hoping that it will actually benefit us. We don't know that for sure, but in the long run, when things are over and we can get our dining and all of our catering back, because that part, the in-house dining and the catering, we did lose. So that's the answer to your question there.
Right. So how about you, John?
Yeah, we saw a deep dive, certainly in the first few weeks in sales.
So how about you, John?
Oh, I'm talking. Can you not hear me? Can you not hear me? Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we saw a deep dive in sales in the first couple of weeks. We reduced our days as well. So we're doing 5 days versus 7 days right now, what we used to do, and but on those 5 days, we're almost back to our regular numbers, which was still in the process of working on improving. But adding in this dinner time delivery, most days we're sort of at about the same number. So our daily goal. And we're able to do that more lightly staffed as well, because servicing a lobby with just the walk-in, just took a little bit more staffing than how we're doing it now. Now, if we've got 30 minutes to prepare each order, as long as we don't get a crazy onslaught of orders, we're able to, like I said, handle it with a little bit more lightly staffed. And then preparing our deliveries at night is something that we're kind of doing offline. Like, we just need to get everybody on the road. We get all our orders in by 3 o'clock. We know how much food we need, et cetera. And it's not enough for us to survive doing just 5 days. But I don't know how much I can still keep trying to get people down to High Street right now until the offices are back. So we're working on deploying the truck to sort of get a few additional service hours in that we hope will be profitable hours.
Right. And so for both of you, we're curious about a few other things. Have you made any changes to processing payments and tips from customers?
We have been, I think I want to say, in listening to all of this and everything, we have tried to keep a lot of the same things we were doing. And like with credit cards, we have tried to take almost all the credit cards, but we still do take cash. And we do allow people to come into the restaurant to pick up. However, if someone, when they call, if they want us to bring out to them, we do. So if someone does come in with a credit card, then we ask them, we have a sign out front saying, well, can we just initial your credit card? And we ask them, they see us initial it, so there's no exchange there if that has been done. If it hasn't been done and we're taking cash, we doubled all the quantity of our gloves, and we immediately, when they take a cash payment, after that's taken, they have to take their gloves off and throw them out. So we're using a ton of gloves, but we're still being able to do it that way.
So we're not handling cash right now, and our pickup is only curbside, and certainly for once the lockdown began, first of all, as a business owner, watching so many businesses just not being able to operate at all, I was grateful that restaurants were sort of on that short essential list. I sort of couldn't believe it at first, but to me I took that responsibility very seriously to not create my own hotspot, not create a place where there are lots of vectors, from customers coming into the space, and the easiest way for us to do that was to just do curbside. I think that's I think yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. I did just going back to the drop in sales question. For you, Joanne, you sell alcohol in the restaurant. Is that included in that drop in sales?
Yes, we don't. I mean, we didn't start with alcohol when we first opened, and it has not been a huge part of our sales to start with. So all the beverages and everything, like fountain soda and everything, and we have lost that part of the business. But as opposed to say other restaurants, I don't think we've never really done a huge amount of volume in the wine and beer.
Yeah, and that's really for dining only anyway.
Yeah.
So technically now that people are doing takeout only, there's no alcohol sales.
Yeah.
They're about to change that.
They're about to change that. I'm glad you brought that up, John. Go ahead, Tell us about that.
Well, I'm not doing alcohol now, and haven't for a while, but they've been allowing takeout beer and wine.
Yeah.
And now you can do mixed drinks in some kind of a closed container that people can take out, which is like it's so interesting. Of the essential things on the list, alcohol has always been there as well. And
we all need our margaritas.
Right, and it only took a little bit of time for weed to become essential as well. So people need their intoxicants. Where's my peyote? So yeah, Joanne, are you gonna start serving mixed drinks like that, you think?
No, we don't have. We only have a beer and wine license.
Oh, okay.
We have been, allowing people to take beer or wine out. We had someone come in and they did like a picnic, and one got a bottle of wine, one got a couple bottles of beer, and off they went to do their picnic. So,
if I can circle back around to handling credit cards. So there are two things that we're doing right now that are additions. The first one is getting so we use Square, which has an okay customer relations and loyalty program side to it. So I've got a lot of customers who are regulars, and I can capture their credit card information. We say, hey, is it okay if I just put your credit card information into your profile? It'll make the next transaction go more quickly. Then it's really just one touch payment for them when they call up, or when they use the online store. And we're using the free version of the online store from Square, which took a little bit of setup. Maybe it would have gone quicker for somebody smarter than me. We had actually started on that as sort of a side project before all this happened, and then we saw that it's obviously going to play an important part. So let's get it done. And it's been very popular. I would say it's probably 3 out of 10 covers that we're doing right now.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
We don't have that option with our POS system, but that's awesome.
Yeah. And they're, you know, I'm looking now in my notebook up here. Chow Now, I think of somebody who just is like an online ordering add-on that talks to a lot of different points of sale. So if you don't want to switch point of sale, which is obviously a bigger project, there are add-ons that you can get to facilitate the online ordering.
Yeah, we have.
So yeah, that was it.
As well.
Capturing people's stuff so that it's easy for them and they can come back, and then getting the online ordering going. But you know, I gotta anticipate taking cash again, which is just a ton of gloves. You know, you might have one person who's just the designated cash handler who doesn't even touch your point of sale, but just puts money in and out of the drawer. I don't know. And then you hose them down Silkwood style at the end of the day.
You're definitely getting creative there, John. I appreciate that. That's great. But so how have either of you have had any staffing challenges? And if yes, how have you managed them?
The staffing challenges, you know, I think one of the things that, you know, we have done is I text all the schedule to all the employees, but I also sometimes will text them little notations or whatever. And in this case, at times I've asked them to respond back with yes or no. So I know that we have a lot of teenagers and college kids and all that I really want to make a point to. And I've used that, you know, quite a bit during this time period, you know. So we've also had
Joanne, can you step back just a little bit from the camera so we can see your face? There you are. Thank you. And then you can speak up so we can hear you. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
Is it the volume not on high enough, or wait a minute?
No, the volume is great now. I just wanted to say, since I was pushing you away from the camera, you would need to speak up a little louder, but you're good. Thank you. No worries. Continue. Sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. So, I mean, each of our staff has different issues. So, you know, one by one, I've had to work, you know, one has problems with the children, you know, being able to stay home. So you're working the schedules around all types of other situations aside from what we need. So we've also had the scare. I mean, naturally, we did have one employee whose father had contracted the virus, and so we did all the notification, and he did the 14-day isolation and all of that. So, and that brought on other people, you know, being worried about that. And, you know, like I said, I think, you know, my fear, and, you know, every day you wake up with a little bit of fear with this, going into work and everything else. And, you know, you put it aside and go ahead and do the day. But I think, you know, looking at if I were to make recommendations, looking at, you know, what your practices are to keep your employees and yourselves safe, as well as now coming in your customers as well, is foremost, because without that, you know, your business is not going to do well anyway, because you're going to have lapses. So,
how about you, John? How have you dealt with staffing challenges?
So I furloughed everybody right at the beginning, and we were closed for a certain number of days, not a lot. And then I opened back up myself. And like I said, for the first couple of weeks, it was very, the sales were way down. And my wife and my 16-year-old came and helped me when I got into a pinch. And then I basically had 3 full-time employees and maybe 3 more part-time employees. Of my full-time employees, one came back and then gave me her 2 weeks notice right when she came back. Her family's had businesses, and they had asked her to help in the family businesses because they had furloughed their people. So obviously that it made sense to me. I could see they're in a sense sort of potting their family and business together. Two of my other employees, actually were hard to reach at first, like not answering phone calls or texts. Then eventually, after a little bit of registered mail, one of them got back to me and said, "I've left Holyoke. Thanks for the memories." And then the other one said, provided me with a doctor's note and said for some reason he can't come back until the middle of June. He's an employee who I'd like to have back. I'm so small, I'm not obliged to necessarily hold his position. But he's sort of, it's been a little bit of a test of his commitment here, to not communicate. And it just leaves me to speculate, the unemployment's pretty dang good right now and better than what I'm paying. So I think that's, and I've talked to other restaurateurs who've had trouble getting people back who aren't necessarily saying exactly that, but the unemployment is good and better than what most restaurant workers make. But what has happened on the positive side is that two of my part-timers were able to come back and go almost full-time, and I'm building around them right now. And they're here. They're doing amazing work, and other opportunities. So sometimes my part-timers, they're kind of gig workers because they are maybe they were part-time for me on the truck or occasional counter help when we had an event. Well, a lot of their other gigs don't exist anymore. So they're looking for other places, and these are employees who are kind of passionate about being here, which I love being around, and I certainly need great spirited people to sort of roll with everything that happens every day and all the things that are changing, and so that's where we are with our staffing challenges. I need more people coming up soon. A couple of my other part-timers are going to start going, with more hours. I don't know if they're going to get to full-time as a way for us to get the truck on the road. That's where we are with staffing. We're certainly we want everybody to be safe first and foremost. So let me ask you, because we're running out of time. We're just going a little bit over time, so we're going to ask folks to be patient. You have one or two more questions for you. So let me ask you on that point about being safe. Are you, and this is to me, there's no wrong answer, but this is a straightforward question. Are you asking your customers to wear face masks, or will you be asking your customers to wear face masks once you open? Like not just the delivery or the curbside, but now when you open your doors and people will presumably definitely be coming in to the. Yeah. We'll be asking that. I think it's required. Not that everybody wants to be compliant there. I unfortunately might be that guy who's standing at the door, really saying, "I'm sorry, you can't come in here. Unless you've got a mask on." I'll have masks available for people, but either you're safe and compliant or you're not. Even though you might make some arguments to me about whether a mask keeps me safe, you safe, everybody safe. We all know that everybody's safer when everybody's wearing masks.
Right. How about you, Joanne?
Yes, we have been asking our staff and all, and we found that, in the hot kitchen as well, it's been difficult for them, but, for all of our employees and as far as our customers, I have a sign on the door that says to please wear a face mask. If somebody comes in without, then I gently try to say, please keep us safe, and if you have a mask, put it on, please,
Having extra face masks at hand
the first
will
couple
probably
times I
help.
did not, have one to give them, but I
Right.
have since gotten some so that I can offer that to someone if they don't have one. But we found we
Yeah.
had some construction workers and they were coming in almost every day and, they finally got the picture and the next time they came in, they had one on. So people, for the most part, I think wanna, if they enjoy coming in the restaurant and your food and all, I think they wanna comply. So.
Right. Right. We did have a quick question in the chat here. Third-party delivery services, do you use them, John? Like Grubhub or DoorDash or not?
Yes, I do. Hang on,
Do
Dan.
you have someone at the door?
I do.
Joanne, do you use it?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm here. Sorry.
Okay. So both of you do use third-party services for delivery. Have you found those really helpful in terms of profitability?
You can sell more orders with them. As far as profitability, I've really, it's a little bit of a volume question. Weighing what it costs to keep a delivery driver available versus the percentages that you give away to these third-party systems is. You just have
So
to.
would you recommend it, or would you be like kind of like
Yeah,
you really need to look at?
I think if you're focusing on, if you're doing delivery, and I would keep it in the mix with. We're hoping to get to a place where we've got our own delivery driver. It's a big chunk of sales. You're going to have to be aggressive in figuring out how to steer people towards your own delivery service if you're providing that, because Grubhub's being very aggressive in trying to pinch, get a piece of sales that they're not even delivering, which is a whole other conversation. But because their percentages get steep, and it's things that just they make you feel ripped off, like they pass on their credit card fees to you. Okay, I get that. I'm paying credit card fees when I make a sale. But the credit card fees that they pass along are like 3.25%. There's no way that Grubhub is a giant like that is paying 3.25% on their credit card fees.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop you right there. And Joanne, do you use third-party services?
Yes, we do. We started DoorDash about it was about a year ago. We've also always had our own delivery people. So, but we tried to make our delivery routes within 10 to 15 minutes max of the restaurant. And we were hoping that DoorDash would start going for a little bit farther out. That really didn't happen. It was still, they were pretty much still within the same 10, 15 minutes. But right now through this, we have found that the amount of orders through DoorDash has definitely increased. And that has helped us to not have to have another additional delivery person. So, one thing with delivery, and I know we go back and forth with that same dilemma.
And can either of you share where you're getting your personal protection equipment?
Like the masks and things.
Yes.
The masks. First of all, I went to Walgreens and I just bought a box of 50 masks, and they've had them there for a while now. So Restaurant Depot also has, they don't have the paper mask, but they have the plastic ones that will cover your face there as well. So, but we've gotten, we had, when this all first started, I bought quite a few of the cloth masks and made those available to all of my employees. So they have at least one, if not two of those that they can, wash and reuse as well.
Great, thank you. How about you, John? Where are you getting your personal protection equipment?
Gloves, as long as you're flexible about what style, they've been available the entire time at the Restaurant Depot. Masks, I got just a pack of the sort of hospital style masks at I don't remember what pharmacy it was, and then I have I've been buying N95 masks actually from someone I know who's a lighting importer, so he deals with China. So he's been buying and distributing N95 masks, and now hand sanitizer seems to be readily available now where it wasn't a couple of weeks ago. And do we count toilet paper as part of PPE?
Well, not for this purpose, but yes, you absolutely need that in your restroom.
Yeah, well, I happened to be at the Restaurant Depot in New Haven yesterday, and saw my first case of toilet paper in months. So I grabbed that. You can talk to me later.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you both so much. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. We really appreciate your time. At this time, I want to share with you real quick that we have several webinars coming up, one of them tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. for hair salons. Then we have another one on Monday, June 8th at 1 p.m. for the hospitality businesses. And I want to thank all of the folks who made these webinars possible. We really appreciate your support, as well as, let's see here, I'm trying to switch the camera here. We want to thank all of our sponsors from the Small Business Administration, the state of Massachusetts, and the UMass Amherst. And we want to let everybody know this webinar was recorded and will be available online. And Joanne, is something you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, I just wanted to share this. And in doing this webinar, I went by some magazines, and this one caught my eye. And it says, a look at risk, choosing courage in the face of the unknown. And, I haven't read the article yet. I just picked this up yesterday. But I think, like I said, every day, you wake up with a little bit of fear when you're facing this. And I think this is something everybody needs to do, is to choose courage.
Great. Thank you so much, Joanne, for sharing that message with us. And let's see here. And I'm putting on the screen right now contact information for all of the technical assistance providers that are collaborating here and for this webinar. Next up is the page you can visit for the Small Business Development Center, contact information for all of the various centers throughout this state. And you can go to our website to find out which office is closest near you. It's msbdc.org. Thanks again to everyone that joined us today. Once again, this webinar will be available on our Facebook page as well as on our YouTube page. And thank you all for joining us. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much. Sorry I was late.
No problem. Thank you. Bye-bye.